For 3 days, I have been tracking every move in this crisis. In briefing 1, I told you the clock started. In briefing 2, I showed you both sides preparing in secret. Today, the President of the United States said the words out loud for the first time. A reporter asked Donald Trump directly, "Are you considering a limited military strike to pressure Iran into a deal?" And Trump responded, "I guess I can say I am considering that." 6 words. I am considering that. And within hours, everything started moving. Welcome to the sand table. This is briefing number 3. Now, some of you will say this is not news. Trump has been threatening Iran for weeks. He sent 2 carriers. He said 10 days. What is different now? Here is what is different. Before yesterday, Trump talked about consequences. Bad things would happen. It would be unfortunate for them. These are threats. They are designed to pressure. But they leave room for deniability. Yesterday was different. A direct question got a direct answer. Are you considering a strike? Yes, I am considering it. That is not a threat, that is a statement of intent. It puts the words into the official record. When the President of the United States confirms on camera that he is considering military action, the machinery around him shifts. Legal teams start reviewing authorities. Military planners move from contingency to operational. Congressional leaders get briefed. Intelligence assets get repositioned. And that is exactly what we saw happen in the last 24 hours. Let me start with the most visible piece. The USS Gerald R, the largest warship ever built, crossed the Strait of Gibraltar yesterday morning and entered the Mediterranean Sea. Ship spotters photographed the carrier and its escort, the destroyer USS Mashhad, passing through the strait around 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. A Navy P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft was flying overhead providing security. Why does this matter? Because the Ford's position tells you the timeline. The carrier is now roughly 5 to 6 days from the Arabian Sea if it transits the Suez Canal. That puts it alongside the USS Abraham Lincoln around February 25th or 26th. Once both carriers are in theater together, the United States will have approximately 160 combat aircraft on 2 carrier decks, plus at least 9 destroyers loaded with Tomahawk cruise missiles. That is the kind of force you need for sustained operations. But the carriers are only part of the picture, and what I am about to show you is something most people have not seen. Satellite imagery published yesterday of Muwaffaq Salti Air Base in central Jordan shows something extraordinary. Every single designated parking spot for a tactical jet that is visible from space is now full. Analysts have identified at least 18 F-15E Strike Eagles, 18 F-35A stealth fighters, 12 F-16 Fighting Falcons, 6 EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets, and 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones visible on the tarmac. And that does not include aircraft hidden under shelters and sunshades. This is one base, in one country. There are American jets spread across bases in Jordan, Qatar, Bahrain, the UAE, Kuwait, and now flowing through the Azores on their way east. The Azores airfield in Portugal alone had 11 KC-46 tankers, 12 F-16s, and a C-17 cargo jet this week. This is the air bridge, the refueling highway that moves American air power from the continental United States to the Middle East in days. And here is a detail that tells you where priorities really are. The United States is pulling F-35 stealth fighters and other air assets out of a planned NATO exercise in Norway. Cold Response 2026, an annual alliance exercise in northern Scandinavia, was scheduled for early March. American aircraft that were supposed to participate are now being redirected to the Middle East instead. When you pull jets from a commitment to your most important military alliance to send them toward Iran, you are not posturing, you are preparing. Now let me walk you through the strategy that multiple sources say Trump is considering, because it explains why he used the word limited. The Wall Street Journal first reported that Trump's team has been discussing a strike then pause approach. Here is how it would work. The United States launches a limited initial strike, hitting a defined set of targets, probably nuclear facilities and select missile sites. Then it pauses. The pause is deliberate. It gives Iran a chance to return to the negotiating table under dramatically different conditions. If Iran agrees to negotiate seriously, the strikes stop. If Iran refuses or retaliates, the United States escalates to the full range of options, sustained operations that could last weeks and potentially target leadership. This is not a new concept. Military strategists call it escalation dominance. You demonstrate capability and willingness with a controlled first move, then offer your adversary a choice: talk, or face worse. The June strikes, Operation Midnight Hammer, lasted less than 30 minutes. This time, the initial wave could be larger, but the strategic logic is the same. Hit, pause, offer a door. The problem, and this is critical, is that the pause only works if Iran does not retaliate after the first strike. And Iran has already told the UN Security Council that all American bases in the region are legitimate targets. If Iran fires back, the pause evaporates and you are in a full-scale conflict. This is why what happened inside Iran today matters more than anything happening at the Pentagon. Today is Saturday, February 21st. It is the first day of the new university semester in Iran, and Iranian students did not go back to class quietly. At Sharif University of Technology in Tehran, one of the most prestigious universities in the country, students dressed in black gathered in what began as a silent sit-in to mourn those killed in the January protests. The sit-in quickly became a march. Students chanted, "Death to the dictator," referring to Supreme Leader Khamenei. They chanted, "Long live the king," referring to Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last Shah. And then they ran directly into members of the Basij, the paramilitary force loyal to the regime, who had organized a counter-demonstration on the same campus. What followed was a physical confrontation. Videos verified by multiple international outlets show students and Basij members shouting at each other, students calling the paramilitaries shameless, and scuffles breaking out across the campus. Iran's state broadcaster admitted the situation became tense, but Sharif was not alone. At Amir Kabir University, also in Tehran, students chanted, "Our target is the entire system." The student union reported that security forces blocked the university exits and detained students. At Mashhad University of Medical Sciences, students chanted freedom. At Shahid Beheshti University outside Tehran, students held a sit-in in solidarity with those killed. Multiple campuses, multiple cities, the first day back. This is not a one-off event. This is a movement that the regime closed the universities to suppress, and the moment the doors reopened, it came right back. And here is the context that makes this explosive. Today is also part of the extended 40-day mourning period for those killed in January. In Iranian culture, the 40th day after a death marks the end of mourning. But when the dead are protesters killed by the state, the mourning ceremonies become political rallies. We saw this earlier this week in cities across the country. Now it has reached the universities. The regime knows exactly how dangerous this is. That is why Iran's foreign minister made an extraordinary admission today. Abbas Araghchi released a list of 3,117 people killed in what he described as a recent terrorist operation. He included approximately 200 security personnel in that number. But here is the critical part. The regime is for the first time providing its own casualty count. And the number, over 3,000 dead, confirms the scale of what happened in January. The regime killed more of its own people in a few weeks than the United States has lost in any conflict since Vietnam. At the same time, a senior Iranian official admitted publicly this week that security forces executed wounded protesters. The practice of delivering a final shot to the wounded was used systematically during the crackdown. This is not an accusation from the opposition. This is the regime confirming its own atrocity. This is the internal pressure that Iran's negotiators are carrying to the table. And it is why Iran's foreign minister made a separate, much more optimistic statement yesterday. Araghchi told reporters that he does not think a deal will take long. Perhaps in a matter of a week or so, we can start real serious negotiations and come to a conclusion, he said. He added that Iran would prepare a written proposal for Trump's envoy within 2 to 3 days. This is a dramatic shift in tone. A week ago, Iran's supreme leader was saying, "More dangerous than the aircraft carrier is the weapon that can send it to the bottom of the sea." Today, Iran's top diplomat is talking about concluding a deal in a week. Why the change? Because the ford crossed Gibraltar, because Trump said, "I am considering it," and because Iranian students are back on the streets chanting "Death to the dictator." The pressure from outside and the cracking from inside are converging at the same moment. But not everyone is moving toward a deal. Israel's Security Cabinet will hold a meeting on Iran tomorrow, Sunday. Israeli public broadcaster Khan reported this Saturday. The meeting comes after Netanyahu's urgent visit to the White House, where he argued that Iran has never been weaker, and the time is right to either extract maximum concessions or destroy its missile program. Secretary of State Rubio is still scheduled to visit Israel on February 28th. If that meeting happens, it could be the final coordination before a joint operation. Meanwhile, the list of countries telling their citizens to leave Iran keeps growing. Poland issued the most urgent warning earlier this week, saying that within hours the possibility of evacuation would be out of the question. Germany pulled troops from Iraq. Now Serbia and Sweden have added their own evacuation advisories. When neutral countries start pulling their people out, they are acting on intelligence assessments that something is coming. And then there is Jordan. A Jordanian official told Al Mamlaka TV that the country would not allow its territory to be used for a military strike against Iran. This came after reports that at least 60 American aircraft are already at a base in central Jordan. So the Jordanian government is publicly saying no strikes from our soil, while the satellite images show every parking spot at their airbase filled with American fighter jets. This is the kind of contradiction that happens when everyone is trying to manage the politics of a conflict that has not officially started yet. Now let me tell you what I see when I put all of this together. There are two tracks running simultaneously, and they are accelerating toward the same date. Track 1 is diplomatic. Iran says it will deliver a written proposal in 2 to 3 days. That puts it around February 23rd or 24th. If the proposal meets Trump's baseline expectations, negotiations could begin on the text of a deal. Arachi says a deal could be concluded in about a week from there. That timeline puts a potential agreement around early March. Track 2 is military. The Ford reaches the Arabian Sea around February 25th or 26th. Both carrier strike groups will be in position. All air assets will be integrated. The State of the Union is February 24th. Rubio meets Netanyahu on the 28th. The full strike force is operational by the 1st of March. Both tracks converge on the same window, late February to early March. This is not a coincidence. This is how coercive diplomacy works. The military deadline forces the diplomatic timeline. Iran knows it must deliver a credible proposal before the military option becomes the default. We are now 8 days into Trump's 10 to 15-day window. Here is what to watch this week. Sunday, Israel's Security Cabinet meets on Iran. Any statement from this meeting will signal whether Israel is pushing for a strike or accepting the diplomatic track. Monday to Tuesday, Iran's written proposal should arrive. This is the most important diplomatic document in this crisis. If it addresses enrichment, missiles, and regional activities, diplomacy has a chance. If it only covers enrichment, Trump will reject it. Tuesday, State of the Union. Watch Trump's language on Iran. If he announces a diplomatic breakthrough, the crisis de-escalates. If he frames Iran as a threat requiring action, that is preparation. Wednesday to Thursday. The Ford approaches the Suez Canal or positions in the eastern Mediterranean. Military assets reach full integration. Friday, February 28th. Rubio in Israel, the last scheduled diplomatic checkpoint before the strike window fully opens. 8 days, 2 tracks, 1 decision. I have been at this desk for 3 days now, covering every move in real time. If you have been here since briefing 1, you know more about this crisis than most people working in newsrooms. If you are new, go watch briefing 1 and 2. Links are in the description. They are not background, they are the foundation for everything that comes next. I will be back tomorrow with briefing 4, because tomorrow the Israeli Security Cabinet meets, and what they decide could determine what kind of week this becomes. I will see you at the next briefing.